What the fuck happened to movie-based video games? Titles like GoldenEye and Disney's Aladdin were household names for both the films and the games. And there was a time where it was weird for big movies to release without a video game tie-in to back them up. Look at this graph though. It shows the number of movie-based games released over the past 4 decades. And slowly but surely, the genre has been fading away for a while. How did this happen? Why did this happen? To answer these questions and enter the world of movie-based video games, we gotta go back to the end of 1979. This is when Star Trek Phaser Strike, the first movie game ever, was released. It was pointless. I don't know what to tell you. It wasn't known for being good, bad, or anything. It just wasn't known. The first movie game anyone cared about, which is also widely considered the worst video game ever, was E.T. the Extra Terrestrial, released in 1982. I could make a whole video talking shit about the game, but in short, it felt disorienting, glitchy, and had horrible graphics, even for the early 80s. I think it is somewhat excusable since the developer only had 5 weeks to make the game, but I've still never heard of a game so bad that hundreds of its cartridges just had to be buried. Some comparatively amazing movie games were released at the same time, like the Star Wars one. I mean, the beauty just brings tears to my eyes, but it wasn't strong enough to counteract the storm built by E.T., which was also considered a major contributor to the video game crisis of 1983. It was mainly just Atari struggling, so the gaming industry kept moving, and over the next decade and a half, the concept of movie-based games truly settled in. Horror movies, superhero movies, lawnmower movies, everything had a game, but the motto was quantity over quality. Occasional bangers like Disney's Aladdin or the Die Hard trilogy kept things spicy, but most movie games here were obvious cash grabs that just copied whatever was popular at the time. There wasn't something that was truly generation defining, nothing that was genuinely original, influential, and made your balls tingle just from how good the gameplay was. Until GoldenEye released. The music, the environments, the sound design, the details, everything was just the pure bliss you feel with a truly immersive and innovative game is almost what you would feel if you subscribed right now. The soldiers even had guns when they were pissing, which I know is something many people want in modern games. Some stuff is really unintuitive. Like here, you're supposed to just walk up to this wall and press select to open the hidden door. How the fuck am I supposed to know that? That's how a lot of old games are though. I swear these classic Zelda games make me feel like my shoe size is higher than my IQ, so I can't fault GoldenEye too much. In terms of influence, basically every shooter you can think of probably wouldn't exist without GoldenEye. Fundamental modern mechanics like team deathmatches, golden guns, scoping in with snipers were all first done by GoldenEye. Even dodge rolls from Dark Souls. Look at this. This game is literally Dark Souls. The next big thing was the 2002 Spiderman movie game. Every single person I've ever discussed this series with somehow remembers loving it. And so do I. The game included voice acting from the actual movie stars like Tobey Maguire and Willem Dafoe, while also improving upon every mechanic established in Neversoft's 3D Spider-Man game. The focus in these games is usually on the swinging, which looks clunky now, but back then was very fun, especially as a kid. I'm trying hard to resist the urge to say it made you feel like Spider-Man, so I'll end it with this. The game was really good, and it paved the way for what Spider-Man games have become. After this, the genre of movie games entered another era of mediocrity. Spider-Man movie games were still cool, and some titles definitely stood out, but almost every game from both known and unknown franchises was mid. Nothing was changing genre-wise until the game for Up was released in 2009. It was playable on PC, every console, and iOS. This is where the transition to mobile games began. Movie games often flopped, so from a business point of view, mobile games were perfect. They required very little initial investment, and they could still reach a massive audience to promote the movie. But by this point in time, people really just stopped giving a shit about movie games. Everyone finally realized that they're usually either uninspired cash grabs, rushed to meet movie premiere deadlines, or a mix of both. By 2013, even massive titles like Despicable Me and Iron Man 3 released official mobile games, which were basically just reskins of Subway Surfers. Everything was going downhill for the genre of movie-based games, but at the brink of collapse, one man saved it all. That man is John Lego, CEO of Lego. Every kid loved Lego games because they were all crafted under one good formula. Cool combat, basic puzzles that made you feel smart, and lighthearted humor sprinkled throughout the game. There are some weaker aspects.
Decided to tag along and help you out. Oh,
Shut the fuck up. But Lego's definitely a knight in shining armor for movie games. Eventually, the marketing teams of movies caught up and realized that a lot of their games suck dick. Many major licenses were given to Lego to do whatever the fuck, and then the rest of the movie games were separated into either individual games or series that are independent from specific movies and instead promote the franchise as a whole. This made sure developers did not have to crunch for film premieres or constantly communicate with movie producers during development. That was the reason the game for Batman The Dark Knight got cancelled. And with that variable gone, we were able to receive many great games like Spiderman, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, Friday the 13th game, and many more. I've been playing the Guardians of the Galaxy game recently, and I was surprised by how much I enjoy it. The writing is on par with the movie, but the story is still unique with cool references to the comics, like how Drax was the one to kill Thanos. His character was simply treated as comic relief on film, which I still liked, but it's nice to see him in a different light too. Harry Potter's series of movie-based games were not well received, but the upcoming one is separate from the movies and it looks amazing. These franchises have so much engaging content that isn't in the movies, and this switch towards games based on the larger franchises helps bring that content to light. Don't get me wrong though, some of these franchise-based games are still awful. Fast and Furious Crossroads being bad was not surprising at all, but John Wick Hex actually made me cry inside. I played it for free because I have PS Plus, but I still feel robbed. They created a game complicated enough to require like 20 paragraphs in the tutorials, but the gameplay still feels simple and uninteresting. Mid is an overstatement for the game. John Wick Hex is pathetic. The main takeaway here is that games need some real passion, dedication, or innovation behind them in order to make an impact on the player. Most movie games were just soulless ripoffs of other popular games, but now that originality has been added to the mix, along with giving developers the time they need to properly finish a game, everything is better. The opposite is true for battle royales, which are only going downhill. So if you want to hear about the history of that genre, watch this video. See you there.